It's a story about the Vatican and the aliens. And because it looks like, of all the religions, the Vatican seems to be really making an effort to come to grips with this phenomenon. They basically, what they did in the 500 years ago, 400 years ago, is they mixed up with the church made a dogma, a religious dogma, out of scientific facts. Basically what's the shape of the solar system, is the Earth the center of the universe. And even though the Bible doesn't talk about this, they somehow took the Ptolemaic theory of the Earth as the center as if it was a religious dogma. Most people are familiar with Balducci, who was the great Monsignor. I had the privilege of meeting him twice. Of course, Mauricio knew him well. And he was a great guy. He was the Roman Catholic exorcist, the Vatican exorcist. And then he became the Vatican ufologist, and openly so, although he said always that this was his own views, not necessarily the official views of the Vatican. But obviously the Vatican allowed him to go and say this, otherwise he would have been censored. And believe me, when the Vatican wants to shut up someone, they do it. They don't burn them anymore, but they have other techniques. And anyway, so Balducci was a great guy, and now he was very clear in his philosophy that aliens were not connected to either angels or demons. As you will see, there are many people that have written books. John Keel was one of them, even Jacques Vallée, where they kind of mix all these things. But Balducci said, no, these are different things. First of all, because angels and demons, even though they can materialize between places and stuff like that, they don't need machines to fly, but UFOs do. So he really believed that UFOs were some kind of extraterrestrial. Recently, of course, there have been the statements by Father Funes, who is a Vatican astronomer, the head of the Vatican Observatory, who is, interesting enough, is a Jesuit from Argentina. And of course, in Argentina, there's been a long history of UFOs. So maybe he's familiar in his youth, I don't know. I haven't met the guy, but we're hoping at some point to meet him, because as most of you know, or probably some of you know, the Vatican, the original observatory of the Vatican is Castel Gandolfo. It's in Rome. But because of light pollution, in cities, when they built it in the 1600s or whatever, I'm sure it was great. But now, with all the major the lights of big cities, you cannot really do proper astronomy. So it's mostly like a historical place, and the headquarters of the office. But their main observatory is here in Arizona, and it's near Tucson. So we're hoping to go there. Yeah, Mount Graham, right?
It's interesting how the Jesuits spread this information. A Jesuit contacted an Italian journalist in the UFO scene and spread a certain amount of this information, including the fact that the SIV was still the greatest intelligence in the Vatican. With what? With 100 people, a couple of Benedictine monks, a couple of nuns, and the Vatican includes millions of members worldwide. They all function as intelligence from the beginning of time. They all go to confessions. The Catholics, well, they are part of an intelligence system run by the Vatican. That's how it is from the beginning of time. So they definitely don't need only one apparatus that can control. Then, if you go and study the history of the SIV, you see that it's a Jesuit-based thing that is full of Jesuits. So, and then, on top of that, who is running the astronomic laboratories for the Vatican? The Jesuits. For example, in Mount Graham in Arizona, nobody asks what is happening. I can tell you what is. I can tell you also what they're doing. Now, who is spreading this? How they think? Zachariah Sitchin met with Corrado Balducci. Who is Corrado Balducci? Corrado Balducci is not only the official spokesman for the UFO in the Vatican. You understand? This is just the front. Who is he? He's a demonologist, the biggest exorcist in the Vatican.
Right.
that should already make you think, okay, there is a connection here between the alien myth and the demonology. Now we found also that this connection is very much alive when most of the people who have spread the disinformation regarding the alien beings have been from the time of Aleister Crowley, his followers of Hubbard or whatever. But the people that have been deliberately spreading disinformation, but to a certain extent Hubbard knew the truth as well as Crowley, because they said themselves, I mean it was Crowley who said, you call them gods, then we call them angels, in 50 years we will call them something else. He showed the image of the lamb, which was the first image resembling an alien being. They are operations regarding the evocation of genies coming from other dimensions. So an interdimensional door is created, is opened up. Where can these interdimensional doors can be opened up? In certain spaces, certain places, certain holy ground from ancient times known to possess that's possibility.
For example,
a purpose. For example,
in Iraq, for example.
Just go to Mount Graham and study a bit what the Jesuits are doing up there. There is a war between the American natives, Indians, and the Jesuits since the Jesuits have tried to build this observatory. And why is that? Because the Indians have used that mountain as holy ground for thousands of years, and there is a specific entity living on top of that mountain, but on another dimension. When he wants, he can be called upon this dimension and evoked. The Jesuits, what they want to do. In the meantime, they accuse the American Indians, oh, these are pagans, what are they doing to us? So we have to do science, observe the stars. Oh, rubbish. What they're doing, they are, yes, observing the stars and the planets. Why? Because you always have to reflect above, below, whatever, you know, this rule of the Esmeralda tablets of Hermes. I don't need to go on with what is the main rule of the Freemasons, also to reflect below what is above. But it is to evoke these entities in a specific time frame, and this has to be carefully calculated. What is magic? The magic is the calculation of the arts with peculiar calculations around the symbols to evoke certain entities and have from them, if you want, certain gratifications. You can work with them.
I haven't prayed in years. Last night I found myself praying for you.
It knows you. It knows all your sins. You do not speak to it. It's the devil.
I'm coming for you.
Your name! Give me your name! God help me! You can only defeat it when you believe in it.
I'm Steve Bassett, the Executive Director of Paradigm Research Group and the Executive Director of XPAC, a political action committee devoted to the politics surrounding the extraterrestrial presence and the government truth embargo about that. The government's not telling you the truth about the ET presence, if you don't already know that. I invite you to go to Paradigm Research Group's website at www.paradigmresearchgroup.org or www.x-ppac.org. Read about this issue. Read about the politics. Read about the work that's been done. Review articles. Explore an enormous bibliography, as well as quotes by people of high rank and station. You will quickly figure out there's something to this. This is real.
The problem is, everyone wants to be first to be second. No one wants to stick their neck out on this. Therefore, we did the Disclosure Project. When I put these briefings together, Lawrence Rockefeller hosted the Clintons at his ranch. And Lawrence was the philosopher of the family. He went to Princeton with McDonald, old man McDonald of McDonnell Douglas Aerospace. But when he was hosting the Clintons at his ranch, and he was going through all these materials that we had put together, Hillary Clinton stood up and said, "Stop. We don't want to hear any more. This is too dangerous." And that was the end of that.